Sean, we ready to go?
Everyone watch Lorraine's lips.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Larchmont. Tonight is Monday, October 19th, 2020. Let the record show that the entire Board of Trustees are present, as well as Administrator Dottino, Treasurer Gutwine, and Village Attorney Jim Stout. I'm going to ask everyone to join in the pledge. If you just give me a moment. Oh, here we go now. Trouble in River City. Okay, here we go. Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, watch my mouth. I pledge allegiance
to
to
the
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Was that better?
That was more on time, but our cadence was a little rough. So I don't know.
No.
The pledge and Zoom is hard, but it's the effort that counts, right? It's the thought that counts. So I'm going to start just with a brief announcement to remind all village residents to please wear masks when you are in public spaces. Our numbers are fairly good here. They've been pretty consistent. Decreased obviously all summer long. 0 new cases for the month of August, but we've had a very, very small, a blip of cases here, September, October. However, the county executive did have a Facebook Live press conference today because countywide, he's seeing a trend of increases, particularly in hospitalizations, that is a little worrisome. And certainly should this trend continue, it would really become worrisome. So we just want to make sure that we keep reinforcing that masks are really, as the director of the CDC said, the best way for us to prevent deaths and the spread of infection. Wear your mask whenever you're in a public space. Wash your hands frequently. Stay home if you're sick. And if you feel like you have symptoms or you may have been exposed, make an appointment, go down to Glen Island and get a test. Right now, their turnaround on test results is 24 to 48 hours, which is great. And I believe today also Governor Cuomo made an announcement that he's going to be making rapid testing available in locations throughout the state. So those are all good things. We go to the appointments to committees on our agenda, and I think we have 2 new members to consider for the Parks and Trees Committee. Trustee Herman is the liaison for that, so I'm going to turn it over to her. Trustee Herman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. We have 2 people who have stepped forward to become members of our Parks and Trees Committee. The first one is Alexandra Gotti, who, like a lot of the people who stepped forward, has been an active volunteer in both the village and then in the town of Mamaroneck. She's been a village resident for 3 years. She has lived in the town for 8 years before that. And while in the town, she was one of the folks who created the Murray Avenue School Garden. Bravo for her. And she has a lot of project management in her background, has already sat in on one of our calls. So we are just delighted to have her step forward. The second person, and I'll do both of these folks together, is Brooke Brandt. And she has moved to Larchmont almost 4 years ago. She's been active in the local PTAs, the Chatsworth Avenue School and the Larchmont Avenue Church Preschool. She too has taken part in some of the Parks and Trees calls and is really excited to step forward. Both of these folks may not have a lot of actual expertise in trees or parks, but both of them are really eager to lend their project management and communication skills, skills that we definitely need in parks and trees. So I move that we bring both Alexandra Gotti and Brooke Brandt onto the Parks and Trees Committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome, Brooke and Alexandra.
Yes, welcome. And thank you to
Thank
both of them for volunteering for a village committee, and never let this opportunity go unused. We rely heavily on resident volunteers for many of our committees and a lot of the work that gets done in this village. We probably have, let's see, 10 to 15 different committees, boards, commissions. So if you're interested in getting a little bit more involved, you have a little spare time, please send an email to our village clerk, Brian Riley. That's villageclerk@villageoflarchmont.org. Just, you can let him know what kinds of areas you might be interested in. He'll pass that along to us and we'll get you to the right person. So thank you very much. And thank you to Trustee Herman for bringing 2 additional new candidates to our wonderful Parks and Trees Committee.
Thank you, board.
Next up, we have a public hearing, which we said at our previous meeting. This public hearing is to amend the chapter 195 of village law, which is where our leaf blower law previously resided. But at our last meeting, we changed that law, moved leaf blowers into a newly created chapter and added some additional regulations to gas-powered leaf blowers and to the timelines for those. The ancillary piece to that job was to therefore remove leaf blowers from the previous section, which was noise. And so we have before us today the local law, which will be local law number 7 this year, should we be passing it. And that is to delete the regulation of leaf blowers, now regulated under chapter 180 of the Code of the Village of Larchmont. Yeah, which will now be regulated, I should say, under chapter 180 of the Code of the Village of Larchmont. So we're removing it from 195-3, which was noise, and we have already moved it to chapter 180. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. The law has been posted with the agenda. The board has read this over. We've actually had it on our table for quite a while. So I'm going to ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board on the proposed local law to remove leaf blowers from the noise chapter? And if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. We have one hand raised. Let's see whose hand that is. Whose hand is that?
Stephen Lipkin.
Oh, Steve Lipkin. Sean, can you unmute Steve Lipkin, please?
Stephen, unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay,
What's
this has nothing to do with it, but it is very vital and very concerned. I need to know the names of the spelling of the Parks and Trees Committee people.
Of
No,
course.
I can't be inaccurate.
No, we don't want you to misspell somebody's name. This is their 15
Exactly.
seconds of fame. Carol, would you do the honors on that?
Yes, looking to make sure I have the piece of paper that I get it right. So first, Brooke Brandt, and her name is spelled Brooke.
Uh-huh.
Brandt, Brandt.
Okay.
And then Alexandra, or she calls herself Alex. So then let's do that. Alex, Alex, Gatti, Gatti.
Gatti. Okay.
Yes.
Goodness.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Is there anyone who would like to comment on the proposed local law to remove leaf blowers from the noise chapter 195? I don't see any other hands raised, so I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now I ask for a motion to approve proposed law number 7 of 2020, amending chapter 195 noise of the code of the Village of Larchmont to delete regulation of leaf blowers, which will now be regulated under chapter 180 of the code of the Village of Larchmont.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful, thank you. Next up on our agenda, we have a presentation from Westchester Power. We have Carmen Santos with us. And she's going to be, she was with us, I think, was it just last month? Or maybe 2 months ago, Carmen, to talk a little bit about Westchester Power.
Yes.
And the bids have come in, the contract has been awarded, and you're here to present it to the board and to the residents of the Village of Larchmont. So go right ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. I will share my screen now. Okay. See this. So everyone, yes, I was here before. Again, oh, sorry, I'm starting at the end for some reason. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm here from Sustainable Westchester. I work for the organization and support the Westchester Power Program, and I'm here to give you updates on the program. So for the viewing audience, Westchester Power is our county community energy program established in 2016. We work with municipalities to buy clean electricity together by aggregating residents and small businesses, and we purchase this electricity at competitive fixed rates. And in doing so, we have a positive impact on our environment. So the program is helping us access affordable green renewable power, helps us address climate change and secure a good future for our children. It helps us improve air quality, and it is helping us boost the green economy and creating green jobs along with it. So 27 municipalities participate in the program. 24 of them have chosen green supply, and we are very happy to share that Larchmont has chosen green supply. That is, they've chosen 100% renewable energy as their default supply for their residents and small businesses. So how does the program work? We, Westchester Power, buy electricity on your behalf. Con Ed continues to deliver the energy, maintain the power lines, and bill you. And you really don't have to do anything. You just end up having more energy choice, and through your participation in the program, you support clean energy. So very exciting news. We've just went through a bid process for the 2021 contract. We had 4 suppliers compete against one another to get our business. And We had Constellation delivering one of the best offers, that is for 18 months. They've offered residential standard supply of 6.749 cents, and we are going with Constellation on this, and actually all of the ones that I'll be following up with in terms of types of electricity. So for the residential green supply, it is at 7.405 cents for 18 months. And the commercial standard supply is at 6.445 cents, again, for 18 months. And the commercial green supply is even lower. It's than the residential green supply. It is at 7.100 cents for 18 months. So if you note, both the commercial and residential green supply are lower than our current rate, which is 7.96 cents. So this was really a successful bid process. And so things to note, you're going to be receiving a notification letter on November 4th. It is going to tell you more about the rates and Constellation. It is also providing you 30 days to opt out of the program if you don't wish to be enrolled. And if you choose to stay in the program, you would be automatically enrolled starting your first meter read date from January 1st. And something we want you to note is that our letter, as well as the envelope, will have the municipality seal on it. We know that there is a lot of mail out there about clean energy and many different offers being mailed to you. And we just want you to be able to easily identify this program. And so please look for the municipality seal. And if you ever have any questions, just feel free to call us and we'd be happy to let you know if that is our mail. And you can opt out or switch between supply options at any point during this enrollment or 30-day period. For opting out, you can use the postcard that is prepaid that comes along with the letter, and you just simply sign it and send it back. Otherwise, you can always call us even during the 30-day period or afterwards. You can call us at 914-242-4725, and we're very happy to help you. And you can also do this online by going at www.sustainablewestchester.org/WP. So we want to continue to do outreach in your communities. And actually on October 29th at 5:30 p.m., we're going to have an event for Larchmont and Mamaroneck. It's going to be an info session, a virtual Zoom info session that you can join to come and learn more about the program. And we're going to be posting it everywhere. Hopefully, we're going to have Mayor Walsh post it on the networks for the village as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we just want to say thank you so much. If you're participating in this program, you're really making a big difference. You're helping us all have a better future. And thank you so much for that. And now I would like to open the floor for any questions or comments you may have.
I don't have any questions on the program, but I'm wondering, could you share that PowerPoint presentation with us? Because I would like to steal some of the information in that for our monthly newsletter.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Sarah. Carmen, I'm so happy to see the improvement over the years in the communication to the residents, because, you know, from the first time we've gone through this all the way through, it's gotten better, but there's always a little bit of confusion. I know I get, you know, every month, Clean Choice Energy, right, is the one that I seem to get constantly, and it's confusing. It helps, I think, to have the Muni seal on the envelope. One question is every property in the village of Larchmont going to receive a letter, or is it just people who aren't already enrolled in the Sustainable Westchester Power program?
Okay, it's actually going to be all of the participants that are currently in the program, plus newly eligible participants who have just moved into Larchmont, or maybe just got out of their ESCO So they would be eligible. And anyone who has already opted out, they will not be receiving the letter. But if they want to join us, they could just call us and we would opt them into the program.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Those are really great rates.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so I'm very happy to see that. Does anyone have any other questions for Carmen? Anyone in our audience have any questions? Oh, I see Steve Lipkin has his hand up again. I don't know if it's this.
I think it was his old hand.
That's his old hand up? Are we sure?
I do believe he re-raised his hand.
He re-raised it. So yeah, why don't we just let Steve stay in so he can ask questions as we move along.
Keep his hands to himself.
What were the rates? The sense, she went by that so fast, I didn't get any of that.
Okay.
7, all that stuff.
Maybe she can give you just the residential rate for electricity.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Sure.
What's the residential rate?
The residential grain supply is at 7.405 cents.
7.405 cents?
Yes,
Okay. That's the residential rate. And was there a commercial rate or what?
there is. The commercial rate for grain supply is at 7.1 cents.
7.1 cents. And that's it?
Yes, there are also standard supplies. That is a mix of fossil fuel and renewable energy. For the residential one is 6.749 cents. And for the commercial, it's 6.445 cents. And all
Okay,
of that for 18 months.
that's the fossil fuel mix, right?
Yes, that would be the standard supply. It's a mix of renewable and fossil fuel.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Problem.
I think we have a question. We had a question from Lisa. Lisa I think.
Sorry. Yes, it was answered.
Sean.
Thank you. It was answered, sorry.
Thank you, Lisa.
I think I'm the one with the unstable connection here. So.
Oh, no, sorry. I just
didn't
said
hear
it was
Lisa's
answered.
question.
I wanted to know what the commercial, the mix rate was. They're so close. I almost wonder if it would make sense to send the letter to people who had opted out. Is that ever considered to see if they would maybe come back?
We've always had this procedure to not send them the letter again, but we
Okay.
can, make info sessions and the related so that they can come and learn about Westchester Power. And if they're interested in joining again, we'd be happy to take their calls or help them through the process. It's very easy to opt back into the program.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No other questions?
Thank you so much for your
Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Have a good evening.
Good night. Next up on the agenda is a presentation from the Fire Chief, Chief Caparelli.
Good evening, everybody. I have a brief report for tonight. The annual maintenance of all fire apparatus is complete. A majority of the work has been done by the village mechanic, Mike Schnabel, at a significant cost savings to the village. Technical service, though, the aerial testing, the ground ladder testing, and the pump testing was done by a third party, and any issues that arose have all been addressed, and it has all passed the performance testing. Hose testing is also nearly complete, with only a few lengths of older hose failing their performance tests. All apparatus continue to operate with a full complement of supply and attack hose for a variety of applications. Firefighter Charlie Bocher of the career staff worked with Rebecca Teaglis, I believe that's how you say it,
Teglis, I think.
from the Larchmont Library Children's Center, and other police and public works employees to create a video book reading and a big truck day montage.
And me.
Oh yeah, and you, I'm sorry, and you. It was
It
very
was
nice.
fun.
I'd
Yeah.
like to thank Rebecca for including the fire department and allowing us to participate in such a great video. On October 26th at 11 a.m. in Constitution Park, I think I have the time correct, Jean Taylor will be doing a reading of her children's book, Just Bunny and the Great Fire Rescue, along with the on-duty staff from the fire department, who will present some fire safety tips for all the attendees, as well as have a fire truck on display and some equipment for the children to check out. The volunteer staff will be at CVS on October 31st from 10 to 1. I think that's correct. Trustee Finelli, is that 10 to 1?
Correct.
Yes. Okay, so 10 to 1 on October 31st for a recruitment drive, as well as having hats, coloring books, and candy for the children who happen to stop by that day. On my code enforcement front, I've been working with you, Mayor Walsh, and Administrator Dottino on preparing for the winter dining around the village. We're just in the beginning phase of this part of the operation, and we're trying to develop a plan to allow the restaurants to operate when the weather gets colder, and it's getting colder very quickly. There are many obstacles to overcome, so we have been pretty busy with this issue, if you can relate. And I also been continuing on my regular code enforcement duties, monitoring the COVID guidance compliance, property maintenance enforcement, and other code compliance issues. And that completes my report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
My only question is, have we gotten any of the completed permit applications back in yet?
One completed permit, and one business opted to not come outside and remain inside. That was the first one, the DIY.
Yeah, right. So she's just gonna.
One restaurant completed everything and is ready to go. And I've been in contact with 3 others that are waiting for approval. One today for the one you sent me to the other day on Railroad Way in Chatsworth. The Trattoria and Tracks. So they want to speak to me tomorrow to finalize that plan. There's a lot of different. There's a lot of different plans proposed, and it's a lot. It's a lot to figure out. I mean, to make sure everything's going to work.
Yeah, this is a case by case basis, but I think towards the end of the week, perhaps UI Administrator Dottino, Trustee Bauer, and Melissa Manis can get on a Zoom together and just review, because Ms. Manis is placing the orders for a lot of the structures for the restaurants. We just want to, make sure we're always cross-checking, and we get a complete, picture of what's going to be going on over the next month.
The structure for the Trattoria and Tracks is quite elaborate. We need to talk about that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. Next up, we have a presentation. Give me just a second. Presentation of the proposed architecture of the development project called Centro by Elk Homes. We're going to have the design team lead architect James Butterfield who is a panelist here. He will be sharing his documents with us and walking through the presentation of the proposed architecture. I just want to let everyone who's watching know that tonight the board is getting this presentation from the team at Perkins Eastman. And we are not going to be approving the design tonight, but we will then meet with our advisory group, who has been working with the team for Elk Homes for a couple of months on the design, and they will have a conversation and answer some additional questions for the board. Until we've had that meeting and that conversation, we won't hold a vote. But at the point that we are satisfied that we have received all of their advice and information, then we will hold a vote. So Trustee Bauer has been leading the way with scheduling for the communications and meetings between the advisory group and the Elcombs team. Did I leave anything out, Trustee Bauer, before we start the presentation?
No, I think that covers everything. I just
Okay,
want to
so-
thank the Perkins Eastman team and our advisory committee again, for all of the time and effort that they've put into this to get the design to the point that it's at now.
Absolutely. Go ahead, James, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor Walsh. Thank you, Sarah. Before I begin, I just want to make sure if Leo is on the line, if there's a few introductory comments that he'd like to make. I'm not sure he's on. If he
needs to be moved to panelist. Sean, can you pull Jonathan Kraut? Jonathan Kraut or Leo?
Leo. Well,
Leo
maybe
Nate.
Jonathan. I'm not sure. Maybe Jonathan.
Leo's hand is Jonathan's hand is up, so I wonder if
Okay, Jonathan then.
then Jonathan Kraut, please. Hi, Jonathan.
Hello, Mayor. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
And James, thanks for letting me tee this up. I think, as said by the mayor, that we're going to give you a brief presentation this evening as to where we are with the design. Sarah and your advisory committee has done quite a good job, I think, of refining the design to where it is. I think it would be a fair statement that at the last committee meeting, they were quite satisfied where there were a couple of minor details, none of which under any set of circumstances would be showstoppers that we're working through. And I think with each set of comments, there have been iterations that have carried forward. I know I'm probably sounding a bit like a broken record with this because it's come up before, but as with one of your more recent speakers just a few minutes ago, the weather is closing in. We have been in this process for an extraordinary length of time. We did learn today that your plan was this evening to essentially receive this presentation, but yet schedule a further meeting of the Board of Trustees. And obviously, if that is your desire and your intention, there's nothing we can do to change that. Obviously, we would have liked for there to be a vote this evening because the design really is in a position where there should be an approval, at least from our viewpoint. So the only thing I would ask is James is going to give you a very short presentation. There's no reason to go on and on about it because it sounds like we're going to be back in short order to have a presentation yet again. I would just plead with the board to set a very short date for your next meeting, being a special meeting for us if necessary, so that we can get the project built, because ultimately that is, I think, our common goal. And we have been in this process for just a really, really long time. And if we're really just down to the design and your committee already is quite in favor of the design, let's have at it. So with that, I'll flip it over to James again with a request, Mayor Walsh, that date for you to reconvene to vote on it be set as soon as possible. We would be ready to do it at the end of this week, if that would work for you. And if not, at the very beginning of next week, we would be ready as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm going to try to share my screen. Please let me know if that works. Can you see?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. As Jonathan mentioned, this is a very brief update. I'm basically going to essentially walk you around the building and share with you some of the more detailed documentation that reflects the development of the imagery of the design that you'll see, beginning with a view from the corner of Chatsworth and Palmer. And I would just like to also reiterate Jonathan's point about the process we've gone through since I think early August now. Working with the advisory committee has been very productive. I think the conversations have been, in a way, for an architect, quite rewarding, very high level, but also focused on trying to arrive at an architecture that represents the village, but does so in a unique fashion that brings a lot of integrity to what will become, a very important building in the village. Hopefully you see from this view how the design has evolved. Among the many areas that we focused on have been sort of at a macro level, the shape of the building and an attempt to address the integration of the upper floor massing with the body of the building, so that we do have a 5th floor, which is set back from Chatsworth. But here you see that it's actually integrated in a very interesting way, allowing the brick to ascend to that 5th floor and then introducing a gray metal material, which provides sort of a stronger datum architecturally at the 4th floor. And then using some of that metal to actually descend into the body of the building and also onto the street side, so that there's an integrity to the materiality. I think the detailing, the fact that this is a brick masonry building fits in very well in the context of the village. We're introducing full dimensional brick. It's sort of a handcrafted material in appearance. That's the direction we're headed. And the development of the design in terms of its detailing is meant to be very tactile and approachable at a pedestrian scale. So there's an attempt to scale the building down, both in terms of its massing, but in how the pedestrian addresses the building as you move around it. So there's very intricate recesses that have been developed into the brick vocabulary, changing the dimension, not the dimension, but the orientation of the brick to create atoms that establish a sense of scale and rhythm and texture. You're seeing some of those recesses here. There's also a large recess which allows the windows themselves to group vertically. You're seeing a change in brick pattern. We're also trying to introduce a brick surround that sort of frames the individual windows. We've worked very closely with the committee on all of these, really all of these gestures to try to refine them up to the point where in our most recent conversation this past week, how to detail the coping, how to introduce sort of a modularity to the coping, to introduce shadow lines and so forth. So all of this has been very productive, and overall we think we're very pleased with the direction that design has taken. And that's, I think, in large part to the collaborative nature of our meetings. This facade also helps identify the residential entry. This is the bay that provides access to the units. The remaining bays on this facade are commercial, with the interesting exception, as you know, on the far side, from the Vandenberg side, providing access to the parking area in the back of the building. And that's in keeping with the access that's provided today. You'll see that the rhythmic nature of the facade and that detailing actually wraps the corner. An important aspect of the design has been to integrate an approach on all facades so that the building provides interest and uniqueness on all facades, but there is commonality. So the building feels as though it doesn't have necessarily a front, sides, and a back, but it's a three-dimensional sculptural, and there's a continuity to the brick detailing. Getting a little closer to that pedestrian way, which you see here, we're working on developing details for sort of a planter that provides an important way to protect pedestrians adjacent to this parking lot. There's a wall there now, which is a part of the construction, will be replaced and strengthened to make sure that that pedestrian way is a safe one. We're doing that in conjunction with some plantings. There's a few important areas of the building where we've introduced greenery. This is one of them. So you see along this walkway the idea of a planter, and this ramp descends to the rear lot. You're also getting a sense here of the the nature of the materiality of the building up close. You see the sort of the richness of the brick vocabulary, the introduction of a wood material on the underside of the canopy that extends to the back, sort of draw you around and along the side of the building. Here's a closer up view of that. An important feature of the building is the idea that there are these pier elements which help ground the masonry. So you're seeing those sort of expressed on the side along the walkway. And also the ramp condition here, which you're seeing here. As you exit that passageway on the rear, we're working right now with the committee on sort of the detailing and the expression of that brick patterning. So this is one of the items that I think Jonathan mentioned that we will return to with the committee to help finalize really what that expression is. But at the moment, this is a reflection of our most recent meeting. You're seeing that richness of detail returns to the rear elevation. And here's an expression of that planting that I described earlier. This is really the second sort of location where we've integrated planting on the building to help soften it and provide kind of an amenity actually for the residential units looking down on it. And then if I move back to Went, you see here the elevation in full. As you know, the rear property is sort of bisected by two adjoining properties. So you have the public parking on one side and a private lot adjacent, which kind of hits our building in the middle. So this is the result in the visual from Went Avenue. You see the expression of balconies. We've worked with the committee on the expression of the even the canopies and overhangs at the top to provide a level of interest and shading for those upper story units. The third area of planting is really the terrace level, which is lightly shown here. So there is a terrace which is accessible from that upper 5th floor, which has a planting surround. This drawing also references the mechanical units that are positioned on the roof. They are represented in the three-dimensional imagery I just shared with you, but their positioning and height means that they're really not visible from any of those locations, which is what we're endeavoring to achieve. And you can see those expressed here. You're also seeing those here lately that will be shown at the top of the building. So that's the extent of the mechanical units that are at the top of the building. You're seeing here on the Chatsworth Avenue in elevation now, the upper floor, which is, as I mentioned, a combination of the gray metal panel and the brick. And this is a representation as I go around the building of where we are in the documentation of the design. So these are measured drawings that will continue to evolve as the building is continued to detail. From the Vanderburg side, one of the items that we're continuing to work on and will evolve is the nature of the louver condition on the side of the garage. So this is a parking area on the lower floor, which needs to be ventilated. So this is kind of a placeholder right now, since this is such an important pedestrian route. We want to minimize those, integrate them into the architecture to make that pedestrian experience more pleasant. Went Avenue elevation shown here. And then on the opposite side, the Palmer Avenue. So we do think the building offers a lot of sort of uniqueness of expression on all exposures, but at the same time, sort of resolves itself into, I think, a building for the village that would be quite special. And I think we're getting very close to, I think, finalizing the design with a few sort of detailed elements that we need to work through with the community. Lastly, this little slide just to try and demonstrate the materiality of the building. This is shared, physical samples were shared with the committee. One of the areas that we're looking at is two-tone brick. So the majority of the building will be this, this sort of lighter red color, which has a variegated sort of pattern of brick, of it's kind of irregular, as I mentioned, the idea of sort of handcrafted masonry units. And then a second brick, which would be darker, and we're working with the committee on where exactly that brick would be used. And then lastly, the wood. One of the other areas that we're going to explore is the nature of that wood finish at the underside of the canopy, and I think that was a question that was recently raised, so we'll work through that material as well. And that's where we are presently with the concept. And once again, I'd just like to thank the committee. It's been a very positive, encouraging process, and hopefully we're nearing a point where an approval can be made by the board.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
I assume that there are also drawings of the plantings themselves as well, especially up on the roof deck.
Yes, we do have a landscape architect that we're working with. And I can share with you, I apologize that that planting plan is not included in this set, but I can provide it. We have it. The species, I think, of plantings are, we are honestly kind of still early days in the design, so those will evolve. We're looking at sustainable plantings, and also ones that potentially on that front terrace there would be a hint of from the street. The idea that that upper terrace actually has a greening element. We think we can plantings that would be tall enough, sustainable and maintainable, but still have a presence from the street.
Okay. Board members, you feel free to ask some questions on the presentation.
Well, I will tell you, James, for me, I'm a little disappointed in the front. I like what you've done around the rest of the building, but I was looking for a little bit more detail of what we had originally. I just think it's brick on brick. You're spinning bricks and turning them sideways, which is interesting. But for me, because I'm just speaking for myself, I don't know if that really represents the village of Larchmont the way I imagined it. I was looking at your drawings earlier from 2019 of this, around this time. There was a lot more detail in the front. And I was just thinking that it would be nice if you guys could put some of that back. Just my opinion. I'll just run down some of the notes that I've taken here since we've been chatting. Yeah, from the front of the building to me looks a little bit like a hospital or a school. The rest of it looks very nice. Thank you. The access from Chatsworth to Went, that bothered me a little bit. So the ventilation from the garage is going to go down that breezeway?
Yes, we do need ventilation on the two garage exposures. However, the sizing of that, those louvers, their exact positions, they have not yet been determined. So this is the ventilation remains a placeholder, and this is an item that we definitely intend to return to with the committee to confirm that people are comfortable with it.
Is there fan noise with those vents?
They're positively exhausted, but we're thinking the exhaust would happen on the far side, and that this would be the intake side, so there wouldn't be noise associated with those intakes.
I know at one time there was discussion of that same breezeway of maybe not looking at the LT stairs and where they dump the water into the driveway there, of some sort of metal type fence. Did that go away?
To be honest, I'm not familiar with that comment or exactly what you're describing. I could pause here perhaps if someone else on my team, if Andrew is familiar with that fencing that you're describing. I'm not sure.
I think the at least to the advisory committee, I know that the green element with the planters there was extremely important. We spent a lot of time talking about incorporating that into the design and finding ways to get more greenery in there. So I think that's why those are the planters that are there.
That's wonderful. It's just that that's where the LT dumps the mop water out their door on the side into that driveway. And it just, I don't know if that's something that we want to see. And
I understand. I think I understand your point.
The rugs on the railing there.
So it's a matter perhaps of the height of the planters,
yeah,
versus what they actually are.
Yeah, I think as the ramp descends, your eye level actually drops below below the planter level. So we could look at we could do some sectional studies that explore what that view actually would be, and maybe the planter does get higher. Maybe the plants themselves are a species that are a bit taller to help screen that. I understand your point.
Perfect. Are the windows, are they crank or they slide?
These are casements, so they would be cranked.
And have we seen those open, or has anybody looked at that with a variety of open windows from the front and the back?
Right
I have
now-
I have a list of materials questions from the advisory committee, and we haven't really gotten too deeply into the materials with the Perkins Eastman team, so that's something that still has to be discussed.
Right. And besides that, I mean, the building looks lovely. I just am disappointed in the front of the building. I don't think it represents Larchmont the way you guys originally pitched it when it was a bigger building. I understand there's cutbacks. It's a financial thing. But we may want to think about, in my opinion, about adding a little something to make it look a little bit more special.
I think one of the
Can I just finish, please? You are in the heart of the downtown, and it should look like something that really represents the way the village feels. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to say one of the things that that the advisory committee had suggested was that if I'm sorry, James, yeah, can you go back to the Chatsworth view? So those 3 bays in the middle. There's the potential of, I think, and we were also looking at those materials. So for those inset panels on the side, we want to change the color of the brick so that those stand out. And so perhaps maybe use the same color brick for those inset panels, somehow incorporate it, you know, not necessarily in the full 3 bays, but either in maybe the bricks around the windows, or do something to make those 3 bays sort of stand out and just sort of differentiate that a little bit to make it a little bit more interesting, was one of the suggestions.
James, can you zoom in on that detail below the windows?
Yeah, I can. Bear with me a moment.
Madam Mayor, while he's working on the Zoom, I just wanted to respond in part to Mr. Finelli's comment, which I very much do understand, but I want to make it exceedingly clear that the present design product is one that was born very much by the comments and direction of your selected members of your architectural committee. And that I do not want to leave the comment as if my client and the Perkins Eastman team came forward with a design that perhaps Mr. Finelli liked better earlier on and changed it to this. I think the reality is, and if there's a hint of frustration in my voice, I will concede to you that it is genuine. That much earlier in the process, you in fact had a consultant whose lead we
You
followed.
know, Jonathan, I understand your frustration.
Well,
I think that this is,
If I could just finish. So
you go right ahead then, if that's what you feel needs to be said right now.
well, I do, because I feel like we went to the committee and we have a design that in almost every respect is complete. There's a couple little details that we're finalizing, but I don't want, when this comes to a vote, for Mr. Finelli to feel like we switched the design from something that was more attractive earlier because we felt like it. And I just wanted to make that part of your record as you go forward to hopefully schedule your joint meeting with your committee as soon as possible so that we can finalize it. And that's it.
Understand what you're saying, and as someone just looking at the work you guys have done, it's lovely, but I'm just a little concerned it's just brick on brick on brick. We've taken away any kind of sort of little classy beauty that we had. I understand we can spin bricks and we can, you know, change the color of them, but we're building a big old brick building in the front with no detail except for brick changing its position and potentially its color. And I just want to make sure that, you know, we all understand that that's what we're getting. We're getting just brick and we're changing brick texture. And this is what everybody's got in mind.
Yeah, I mean, this is
I'm
something
taken
that we
back by
spent.
this. I'm kind of disappointed in front. I'll be flat out honest with you.
I
saw it today for the first time.
understand what you're saying. We spent a significant amount of time. And I think once we get to the point where you can hear directly from Ken Sokol and Catherine, they can explain sort of the thought process and the details that went into this, and that it actually is a lot more visually interesting than to sort of the layperson. I think having spent a lot of time talking to the three of them and going through this process, I have a much better appreciation for the work that's gone into this and the details that are there that you wouldn't necessarily see from a flat drawing.
No, I get that. I'm with you, Sarah. I understand. But all I'm saying is it looks very institutional from the front. The sides are lovely. They have a nice mixture of brick and your faux wood or whatever you got going on. It's lovely. But this looks like comics. I'm just surprised after 3 years of us going back and forth, and we've been here for 3 years, this is the one that's getting approved. This is my opinion. I'm only 20% of the vote.
Great. Do you have questions for the architect on any of the details or layouts or perspectives or anything on here while we have him with us?
No, everything's fine. I just wanted to see more than just brick in the front. A spinning brick with brick on the side. Okay. I mean, I thought for me, I'm not wowed. I thought after all this time, we would have come up with something that was going to be Larchmont.
Well, maybe we all have different opinions.
Absolutely. That's why I'm saying I'm only 20%, Lorraine.
So, right. Yeah.
But I just want to make it clear that.
Well, that's why we're going to have we're going to follow up and have, have a conversation with the advisory group, as Sarah explained, and then we'll see where it lands, and we'll take a vote.
And I would also just be curious to see some sort of rendering what it might look like with the windows open at different floors and how that affects with the light.
Yep, that's a good question. We can provide that. I think we have some intentions in mind. We haven't gotten to that level of detail with the committee, but we can certainly provide that.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you, James.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Malcolm, Carol, any questions?
This is all very familiar to me, having participated in all the advisory committee meetings. I think the design has evolved very well, and I think we have the potential for a very handsome building here.
Okay.
And there are still, as Sarah mentioned, there are still some various issues that the working with Perkins Eastman, the advisory committee is still going to be discussing. But it was felt that it was important at this point for James and his colleagues to present the work as it stands right now. And it's my understanding that it's relatively close to completion.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to, sort of digging a little bit into the details that are still yet to be finalized, and making sure that the board understands what those are.
Absolutely.
So I know that the materials are close, but not entirely decided upon in terms of the secondary brick color, in terms of the wood paneling. The windows are still.
I think that was just actually Catherine and Sokol had sent questions about materials for me, and that was one of the questions that I actually just received today, was on the windows and just sort of things that we need to understand in terms of the materials.
Okay. All right. Carol, do you have any questions while we have the architects here with us on this presentation, or do you want to sit with it and hold your questions for the next meeting with the advisory group?
I will hold my questions.
I can't see Carol's face. Okay, thank you. can you go back to, I think it's panel 6, actually, James. This, I just want to make sure I'm reading this right. It might just be a question of the rendering. This is this slopes from the front to the back. It slopes down towards the back.
Correct. It slopes.
Is it a consistent slope, or is it sections? You know, slope flat, slope flat.
Yeah, it's sections. It's a 6-foot drop. So what you're seeing here are the 2 intermediate landings that are required for us to manage the descent.
Right.
That's what's represented in the rendering. It's just a little hard to tell.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to tell what direction it is, or if it's steps or anything. I just wanted to clarify. So, and that's all done to ADA specifications, the slope and the resting area.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And the material, if you want to go back to the pedestrian passageway, the barrier again, what is the bottom material? These look like metal planters on top of something. Am I reading that correctly?
Our first concern really is the safety and retaining of any vehicles that are on the far side of it.
Yeah.
Prevent them from overshooting and going into the pedestrian way. So first and foremost, it needs to work as a vehicular barrier. Right now, we're showing it at about 40 inches. It has a width of about 18 inches or so. And we're going to use a portion of that width to manage the planting. The materiality of it, this is not going to be an off-the-shelf planter because of the fact that it needs to be the barrier. So it's going to be a custom wall that has, it's going to be a concrete base. And then with some detailing that provides some scaling and a quality that makes it look and feel as though it's a planter, but the truth is it's serving as a vehicular barrier.
Right.
That's a detail that the intentions are represented here. We have a little more work to do on the detailing side and also with the committee to make sure that we're ending up where we need to be.
Okay, and can you go to the front facade that shows the residential entrance?
This one?
Yeah. So the residential entrance there is set back how many feet from the facade?
That's a good question. I think it's probably about 4 or 5 feet. That's my recollection. You can see here, maybe I can zoom in a little bit. Oops, sorry. Yeah, so compared to the recess of the pier at the commercial storefront, it's at least twice that. Oh, Andrew is texting me. No, he could give me the dimension, but I think it's 4 or 5 feet.
4 or 5 feet.
Yeah.
And what is have you finalized the canopy material there, or is?
No, and that's one of the, because of its structural nature, and we're at a pretty early phase still really in resolving structural issues. That's one of the items that the committee's asked that we return to them on. Our goal conceptually is that it's distinctive from the commercial canopies, so it does need to feel different.
Right.
The discussion that we've had is to lighten it. What's shown here has perhaps a bit too much structure that's sort of visible and expressive. We want to see if we can minimize that a little bit. We are thinking that it's a glass canopy, which would help sort of distinguish it from the adjacent canopies as well. But this is sort of a reflection at the moment of where we are in our process, but it will evolve a bit.
Okay, thank you.
James, I have one other question. The access way to the back, to get to the back of the building for garbage and that sort of thing, is there a detail of that?
Yeah, the access side is the opposite side. So what you're seeing here is the vehicular entry to the garage, and this door provides access to the trash room inside the building. So of this is managed on the far side of the building from the residential passage.
Okay, and that garage is a straight shot out to Went Avenue or no?
You come out of here and have to make a left and then head to Went. And that there's an existing
Easement.
to make that maneuver in the plan.
Mhm.
But it's happening up here on the far side. And this, I think the site plan, I believe, can be certainly part of this package. It's not in this show, but we can provide that, and that will clarify, I think, how the vehicles are actually accessing the garage.
Thank you.
Can we, yeah, there we go. So one thing that's changed from previously is that you've created balconies on these side apartments, whereas I believe before just the windows came flush out.
Geez,
I mean, that might not have been like the most recent change, but
I think they're.
No, you know what, Lorraine?
version.
You know what I think happened was I think the balconies previously had like roofs on them, and they were removed so that it creates a visual. That was one of the things that the teams had worked on when they were focusing on the side. I think that's why it looks different.
I mean, my opinion now, and I have a lot of questions that, you know, I think the advisory committee who worked on this and at our next meeting can answer a lot of that, flesh out some of those details. But I think that there's a lot more. First of all, the building just feels lighter to me.
Mm-hmm.
That
was a big focus.
Yeah. And I really appreciate all the movement from all directions. And I really like that interplay of like the brick wall out and then the recessed windows and balcony. And the way you carried the material from the bottom up to the top and then from the top down the back for the, I know I'm pointing to it with my pencil, which you have no idea. Sorry. From the fifth story down the back. That material is the same metal that's proposed for the retail canopies and the window surround.
Yeah, it would be part of the same family. The product would be a little different, but
the same color and finish. Yeah. And so for the paneling for the fifth partial story and the pieces that carry down, are those like to mimic vertical boards? So it's not a big sheet, in other words.
No, it needs to be modulated in terms of there are limitations to how big that material can be. And we do want to, again, provide sort of the detailing that we're showing in the brick. We want to introduce a version of that into the gray component as well. So you are seeing that modulated here, and that's intentional. So it is providing a texture and sort of a grain, and it's not monolithic.
Right. At the end of the day, I know, there are some limits to, this is a computer generated rendering, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And they can sometimes, the colors can look a little off, and certainly depending on the screen that it's shown on. Mm-hmm. And they can also tend to look a little bit flat, which might be difficult for people then to pick up what I think in reality, with all of the difference in depth that you have here with the brick, is going to actually be quite interesting to look at and cast a lot of shadow and have a lot of interplay.
Yeah,
it's hard to see that in this drawing. So is there a way at some point to get at least one perspective? Yeah, I mean, when you have the close-up, you can definitely see it a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these are actually very interesting questions. And as we're looking at it, talking about like the detailing, I have we have produced images that are even closer than this that I can also provide you that give you,
Okay.
I think from the sidewalk, even if you're standing directly in front of those shops, what does that look and feel like? So that can be included and
I
shared.
think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, in advance of your meeting with the committee.
Right.
Be good for you to have.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. But yes, I think these are obviously renderings. They're not meant to be photorealistic. But they are meant to be as close as we can get at this stage. And I think the close-up views will provide some of that indication of richness and sort of the tactile nature of that brick. And even frankly, in this view, you can see there is an awful lot of richness and detail going on in the building, which is quite unique. I mean, I think at the end of the day, this building would be quite memorable for that level of attention to masonry detail.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things that we spent a lot of time talking about as well is the sort of the way the sun hits the building, the play of the shadows that you can't really get from a drawing like this because of
Yeah, but Sarah, it is implied there in that rendering. You can see some.
Yeah, you don't. I think it's it's not quite the same as seeing it in person.
I'd be happy though to provide some additional views that I think try to capture that, because it is part of the beauty of the building, and we want to make sure that you understand what our intentions are.
Right.
So we can provide that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm quite pleased with the direction that this building went in, actually, because to me, the use of the brick, the way you're using brick on here is a way that we see brick being used around the village. It's a time-honored methodology for adding interest and playing around with the variations of color and texture and depth of the material to add visual interest. But it feels a little lighter and fresher, and I appreciate having that design aesthetic on this building.
Good.
So
Well, happy to hear you say that.
That's
yeah.
good.
So I think unless somebody has any additional questions, we'll hold it. We'll wait for you. I assume you'll get us some things, additional renderings, drawings, things that you've got to share with us that you've mentioned.
Yes, I can have that sent out tomorrow probably.
Okay, and Sarah, you'll get some potential meeting times and dates from the advisory committee, and we'll schedule something as quickly as we can all get the groups together.
We appreciate you doing that as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the presentation, James.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Next up on our agenda is a report from the attorney. Mr. Stout.
Yes, nothing for this meeting, Mayor.
Thank you. And from the treasurer?
Nothing to report tonight, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Trustee reports. I'll start with Trustee Finelli.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Just a reminder that paddle tennis has begun. This is a great fall and winter sport. Permits are $150 per person. Paddle courts will open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. You must have a permit to play. Here is the Flint Park paddle tennis schedule session starting October 23rd, which runs through December. There are 4 players for every pro. Also, space is limited. If you want to play paddle or play the clinic, you should sign up now. For all schedules for juniors, teens, and adult clinics, go to villageoflarchmont.org, Recreation Department. For clinics only, you do not need a permit to play. I want to thank the Recreation Department for putting together an exciting fall-winter program. Thank you. Village of Larchmont's annual Spooktacular Halloween window painting event is a go this year. Painting sign is up, filling fast, so all you young artists that want to show off your spooktacular skills, have your parents sign up today. Go to villageoflarchmont.org for all the scary details. Registration is first come, first serve. Space is limited. Painters must supply their own water-based paints. The village boards wants to thank the local merchants for allowing us to keep this tradition alive and to continue. The window paint date is Friday, October 23rd, starting at 3 p.m. Fire department news. As the chief had commented earlier, the volunteer fire department will have a table out in front of CVS at Chatsworth Avenue, right across from Chatsworth. We'll be handing out glow necklaces, glow bracelets, some information about fire safety, little candy bags, that sort of thing. Lots of information about recruiting. If you want, come on down, say hello to the volunteers that are out there. I'd love to chat with you about it. Speaking of our volunteers, we are still looking for volunteer firefighters. If anybody wants to get involved, come by the firehouse, talk to the chief. He'll give you some information, maybe a tour, or give me a call, Bubba Finelli, 914-403-2387. I personally want to thank Sarah Bauer. I want to thank you for all the hard work you've done with the social media campaign that's taking place in the village of Larchmont. It's really made a big impact, and there's a lot of good buzz going around that. I know it takes a lot of time. The residents love it. I know, speaking for myself, I really appreciate all the hard work you're doing, and I want to thank you for your hard work and dedication.
Here, here.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
The hardest
Happy
thing on
Halloween.
Friday, fun facts. If anybody has good history for me, let me know. I'm running out.
Trustee Bauer.
Oh, not much to report this week, Mayor. Just that the roof for the children's library has gone without a hitch. It's moving along, and things should be getting back to normal shortly.
Very good. Excellent. Trustee Fruman.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Thank you. And Trustee Herman.
Parks and Trees, incredibly busy. Not only did they plant 8 trees that the village paid for, we were the recipient of a very generous donation from Larchmont Nursery. Joanne Grossman has donated as many as 20 trees and shrubs. We are looking to site them properly through the village. And Karen Hall, Tony Porter, Laura Treadway have all been very busy helping us do that. We hope with the good work of the DPW to get everything in the ground within the next few weeks. But what a generous gift. I really think it's going to help the village. LMC TV, you know that I'm on the board of control, and LMC, I want to report that LMC had a very successful gala. It was a fundraiser, and they honored Nita Lowy for her years of service. It was really, really well done, and they've raised upwards of $45,000. So bravo to LMC TV. And as the board knows, the Finance and Budget Committee has been working with us on our parking project, and then also trying to understand the budget impact from COVID. So the work goes on. That's it.
Very good. Thank you very much. Next up, we have reports from the administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a brief update on paid parking. I'll pick up where Trustee Herman left off. As you know, we presented the program, so to speak, at the October 5th meeting with regard to the nuts and bolts of how we were going to implement paid parking in Larchmont and what it was going to look like. Work is still continuing behind the scenes. I'll be meeting with vendors to discuss locations for kiosks. And as you know, and Trustee Herman know, as well as Kimberly, we met with our financial advisor over the last week or so to discuss the project, the implication to our rating in terms of how we are seen by our rating agencies, as well as how the project overall fits with our finances. And I'm happy to report that the financial advisor gave us a lot of good information, but also gave a thumbs up, so to speak, for the project. It would not negatively impact our bond rating. We have plenty of room in terms of our debt capacity. We're nowhere near our limit, nor would we ever get that far. But even in general, we're in a pretty good place. And the additional, the short-term debt is just that. It'll be short-term debt, and we'll pay that down very quickly. So again, no foreseeable negative impact there. In the coming weeks, we will be providing the village board with a bond resolution, and that's part of the legal process for us to go out and borrow money. So we'll keep an eye on the agendas, and when we feel is the right time to place that before the board for the consideration. And that's about it.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 12 on our agenda is resolutions that we either have tonight or that were set at previous work sessions, and we have no resolutions this evening. 12, hear those persons who wish to address the board. So in our attendees, Sean, is Steve Lipkin's hand, is that his old hand or a new hand?
Entirely sure, so I will allow him to talk.
Okay. Hi, Steve. Do you have a question?
Fire department going to be at CBS. What's that date?
That's the 31st, Halloween.
Halloween?
Halloween from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
10 a.m., 1 p.m. We're at
The CBS on Chatsworth Avenue. across from
CBS Chatsworth, right. Okay. And they're going to be handing out necklaces and stuff and recruiting.
Correct.
Okay.
Don't miss this one.
Date was again the 20, what was the date again?
31st.
Halloween, the 30th.
Halloween afternoon.
Halloween.
Morning into afternoon.
Halloween, the 31st then.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Sean, Michael Godfrey, stand up. Can you?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Board. Thank you for
evening.
the opportunity to ask you a question. Mayor, I tried calling earlier today, and I have a call into Councilor Stout. My question is with respect to the annual meeting for the Sanitation Commission that was held this past Thursday, if I may.
Well, it wasn't an annual meeting. It was a meeting to discuss our presentation for the joint board meetings.
So this was not the meeting to discuss the budget?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, for clarifying that. When is that meeting scheduled?
Hold on, I'm going to check my calendar right now. I don't know that we set the date, but we may have.
And Mayor, in that case, would you please disregard my email of Friday, because I had asked to get notice of the annual meeting.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And Steve had suggested that we sign up on the town website.
Right, because the town does the sanitation notices for the commission.
Yeah, may I respectfully suggest that you consider noticing that in the village as well, because I believe that residents are entitled to 72 hours of notice and an opportunity to participate, both in the town and the village. So that's also, I think it would be appropriate for the budget for 2021 for the commission to be posted alongside with a link to that meeting, because some of us actually do have questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a public sanitation service, not a private one, and it's, in my opinion, subject to the sunshine laws like everything else.
Right. Well, that's fine. I'll leave the logistics of that to the superintendent of the commission to get everything posted and set. But
if that's the case, then it should be posted all on the sanitation's website.
That would be the correct position for it. Yes.
So I think we'd like to see that. And there are some questions that I think should be asked of him in particular in advance when we get that document, and that in particular would be the number of residents and commercial and other users that are being serviced by the commission, so that we can understand what the per stop cost is this year versus last year, and any of the savings that would be, so we could see how the savings in addition to that would be shown with respect to the proposed change to curbside. There was as you know, there was a number. And so I think that it's important that ample notice be given of that annual meeting so that we can ask some questions. And I thank you for the opportunity.
Just to let you know, my calendar has October 29th as a date that we set, and I believe that's going to be for conversation of the budget, the tentative budget.
Correct. Okay, well, if you can ask Steve to provide the budget as well as a number of stops that in the town and the village, like he did last April, April 27th, he presented that. It's information that has never been, put into his regular presentation.
Right.
But it is material to understanding the costs.
What drives the costs?
Well, no, how the cost. We know how it drives the cost. We don't know how it's split.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who wishes to address the board? Again, I don't know if that's Steve's old hand or new hand. There's got to be a way to tell. But we don't have any minutes to approve tonight. We're going to get to the minutes at our next meeting, having just had a meeting 2 weeks ago. So we'll move to item 14, approval of the bills. And for that, I'll turn it over to Trustee Herman.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of things. This is a really short bill list, so I expect that we will be seeing more bills to be approved on November 2nd, which is our next work session, unless I've missed a work session. In addition, I don't have any bills that have been paid off the abstract journal list. So just letting you know that.
Okay.
So I've reviewed the invoices listed in abstract journal number 16. I move that the board approve payment of those invoices listed in abstract journal number 16 in the amount of $118,929.23. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, board.
Thanks. I think that's one of our smallest bill lists total.
Yes, it is. So, and that's why I wanted to point that out, because I know that there are more lurking in the background, and I would prefer not to have 14, 15 pages of invoices to review next time around. So self-preservation there.
All right. So we have reached the end of our agenda. And there being no one else who has raised a hand to address the board, I'm going to ask for a... Oh, no, not even Stephen. So I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you and good night.
All right, everybody.
Good night all.
Bye.